Uh, I was trained in martial arts, and I been wrestling and beating up and then killing people progressively. So killing doesn't bother me. It's my duty as a kshatriya. However, this is a very delicate situation. As I see, I'm not blind. This is not a war that is going to be fought from bunker to bunker, sending drones and dropping bombs while you're thousands of miles away. This is hand-to-hand combat. And the people opposing us are part of my family, even my grandfather, even the man who taught me how to fight, Dronacharya, and his son, Ashwatthama, who became famous for being a jerk, and many others. My cousins are there. I'm not comfortable. I'm comfortable killing, but I'm not comfortable killing my family for some unknown reason. So Krishna had to convince him. And sounds nice, but you're speaking like a person with, as Prabhupada would like to say, poor fund of knowledge. Flowery words, but devoid of meaning. First of all, you should understand that we are not the bodies, and there's no way you can kill the soul, and there is no way you can save the body. So all you can do is your duty, and that's all you have. And so the Bhagavad Gita really is a book about duty, about what one's supposed to be doing. So why is that it took so long for Krishna to convince Arjuna? Because, okay, you say, well, it wasn't that long. It was about 45 minutes. But if God shows up and he has an idea, really, will it take you 40 minutes to get it? Or you will hopefully be a little more open-minded and say, no, okay, I get it. Just, sorry, I made a mistake. I thought I was as smart as you. Arjuna was put in this predicament purposely for posterity, for us. We are the ones who don't get the message quickly enough. So Arjuna had to slow down to our level so we could actually read the Bhagavad Gita and understand it. When Prabhupada translated his Gita, that was about 50 years ago, approximately. He knew that there were other versions. There were versions that they were more scholarly in the sense of more literal translation. However, not a single, and there were approximately, again, about 50 years ago, 600 versions in English alone. So why would Prabhupada have to present yet another one? Not even a literal translation, one from a bhakti tradition. Because this is what the Gita is. The Gita is the solid foundation of the bhakti tradition. It's a discussion about what is relevant, what is of concern to all practicing Vaishnavas and even non-Vaishnavas, because many of the people who read it and finally got the message, they may not have become Vaishnavas right away. They may have to wait a few lifetimes, but they actually, if they get the message, then you understand the functionality and the importance, the relevance of Bhakti Yoga, not just another process. So Arjuna took a while. Obviously, he had a lot of questions to ask. Fortunately, so Krishna could speak his mind. And then, towards the end, you may know two of the crucial verses of the Gita, Mammanava Bhamat Bhakto, 1865, and Sarvadharman Parityaja. So become my devotee, render homage to me, and then finally surrender. But this is not the end of the Gita. This is just verse 66. There are a few more verses afterwards. And Krishna asked Arjuna, do you understand? Did you understand? I mean, even after 40, 45 minutes of having this dialogue in the most difficult situations, when he had to decide if to kill his family or not. And also Krishna told him in no uncertain terms. He said, I can see past, present, and future, but you can't. All these people here that you see are dead, all of them, without exception. I already killed them. It's up to you to take the credit or not. Krishna indirectly told him, I'll find someone else if you're not up to your duty. And again, this is duty, which is so relevant because it's more important than anything else we have going on. Let's say there is a meeting. Let's say this meeting, instead of being a cyber meeting on Zoom, is a meeting where we're all meet in someone's house in Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Denver, wherever we are. And all of a sudden, some deranged person wants to come in and kill people or rape the women or something like that. And among us, there is someone who is a policeman in plain clothes, but he's off duty. Obviously, he's taking a little break to do a Gita Jayanti, a Gita class. Wouldn't it be the person's primordial duty and concern to defend all the others, even if he's not on duty? Yes, it would. Yes, it would. It will be criminal. For others, they may have their reasons. They're bewildered, or they're cowardly, or whatever. They never face a situation like that. But for someone who is trained as a policeman or as an army personnel, it's absolutely their duty to defend others at the cost of their own life. So for an incident like that to take place, and for that person to try to philosophically explain why he didn't intervene when the guy was raping some women or harming others, there will be no palliative to that explanation. There will be no defense, no possible defense, because it's that person's duty to defend others. So for Arjuna, no matter how much of a good guy he wanted to be, it was indefensible. His position was indefensible. He had to restore order and justice. And Krishna told him that. So this means that when he presented the argument to Krishna saying, oh, I don't want to kill these people. I don't want to kill my uncles and my cousins and so on. Krishna told him, no. And he said, I'll become a yogi. I'll go to the Himalayas. I become a meditator. I become a peaceful person. Krishna told him, no, that's not for you. That's someone else's job. And if you let, in the name of goodness, if you let this other side of the family take over because of your so-called goodness and kindness, they are going to exploit those who you really love, like your mother and your brothers and the people that have taken shelter of you. Because they are unscrupulous, they're cruel, they're not like you, they're not reasonable. So Arjuna decided, okay, there is no way around this one. Yes, when Krishna asked him finally, okay, did you understand? Arjuna said, yes, I did. And Krishna said, what are you going to do? In other words, it wasn't a done deal. Like, okay, yeah, I understood, and I have no choice. Krishna still gave him a choice. And this is how Krishna operates. Because some people ask this question, why did God give us free will? We make so many mistakes. We make so many bad decisions. Why would God want to give us free will if he knows we're going to mess up? It's because he doesn't want robots. He doesn't want thoughtless creatures. There is only one thing that Krishna doesn't have that we do have, and it's love, our love for him. So Krishna wants us to voluntarily submit this tiny piece of independence that we have to love Krishna or not to love him, and surrender to him. Just give it to him. Krishna doesn't want to force anybody to love. Otherwise, it's not love. If you chain someone to a bedpost, this person is not your lover; is your slave. So Krishna doesn't want to chain anybody to his bedpost and call it love. He wants us to voluntarily surrender. So when he asks Arjuna, "Do you understand?" Arjuna said, "Yes." What are you going to do? And he said, "I'm going to do as you asked me to, because it's good for me. It's good for everybody else." He understood. So this is what the Gita is about. It's not simply a conversation. It's actually the plight of a living entity. Because we only have, we have a tiny fragmental independence, and we only have two choices: to love Krishna or not to love Krishna, which is equal to loving Maya. So are we going to fall in love with Krishna, or we are just going to continue to worship Maya and pretend that they are the same? So this is our book, our big book. And fortunately, there is no controversy. And when Prabhupada translated it, he actually created a revolution. He made bhaktas out of a book. Not tens, not hundreds, not thousands, but millions. People actually became devotees of Krishna from reading Prabhupada's Gita. There were no previous experiences like that. There were 600 versions in English, and thousands of people read them, and not a single bhakta came out of those. So this is the merit to the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which turned people's lives around, made them what they are today. They are practicing Bhakti Yoga. I didn't read the Gita until I was in the movement for a few months. I actually didn't have time to read anything. I was so busy doing service in the beginning of my devotional career that after 6 months, I barely finished the book Beyond Birth and Death. Very, very small book, maybe 50 pages. I distributed hundreds of other books in the meantime, but I had not read them. And one day, I was living in Brazil, and with one new bhakta, we were going. We're taking buses. We're selling books in buses, very, these long distance buses. So one will stand right by the driver, facing the public, and the other one will be halfway down the aisle. Also, because it was very loud and very long bus, so we'll sell books, a few books every bus, and then get off the bus and wait on the next. It was maybe an hour long route, so we will take the next bus and then the next bus and then the next bus and sell books like that. But I hadn't read any of the books, so when we got to our destination, that meant we had to take the bus back to town, several buses actually. I had a BTG in Portuguese, which I read, and in the middle of it, just like nowadays, I guess there were verses from the Bhagavatam. But because it was one of the first BTGs in Portuguese, there was the first and second verse. Excuse me. The first and second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And since I had time until the next bus will leave town, I read them, purports and all, and I was amazed. I was a bhakta for a few months already, and I was amazed how deep the philosophy was. I was really ecstatic to see that. Oh, yeah, this is great. This is great. This is a compendium of true philosophy, which is not just a bunch of daydreams from some French man in the 1950s, under the influence of hallucinogenics, trying to create a philosophy for other people to follow, so they were as depressed and hopeless as they were. This was actually something brought up by thousands and thousands of years of research and practice. As I like to say, the sages have done the homework for us. So it's not like we have to rediscover the wheel. We just have to follow the same line. Now, how is that we can enthuse others to follow this path of bhakti? Because there is Vaishnavism and there is Hinduism. And Hinduism is Vaishnavism without the preaching, where you think everybody's doing fine. This is actually the vision of a Mahabhagavat, a Uttama Adhikari, who sees that everybody's engaged in Krishna service. Don't bother them, don't agitate them. The only person who's not engaged in Krishna service is me. And there is also the false posture of thinking, why should I bother anybody? Which is not the Uttama Adhikari or the Mahabhagavat vision, but is that of a lazy philosopher, someone who found salvation, found happiness, found everything they could look for and more, and they are too egotistic and too selfish to share it with others. This is our mistake when we think, oh, I'm already doing sadhana bhakti. I'm raising a family, and they're all doing bhajans and reading the Gita. Yeah, and your neighbor, and your other neighbor, and your neighbor across the street, and people at the laundromat, and the grocery store, and the toy store, and everywhere you go, at the office. What about them? Well, they have their own process. Yes, unfortunately, it doesn't weigh up. Krishna consciousness cannot wait for the moment to be the right moment. That's why Prabhupada came. And of course, Prabhupada being a Mahabhagavat, Shaktivesh avatar, pure devotee, he had a little bit of extra help from Lord Chaitanya, who set up things in a little better way, a little easier, you may say, although Prabhupada had to undergo a lot of sacrifice, that he will actually cook and clean and serve the devotees, and the devotees had no idea who he was, and say, hey, Swamiji, more sabji here, I'm hungry. So Prabhupada had to undergo this kind of I wouldn't call it humiliation, but um, deep, deep humility, where Prabhupada had to just understand that he's contending with people who have no idea about spiritual life. So I have to protect them, and I have to raise them like children because they don't know any better. So the job is not done. Prabhupada left quite a bit for us to do. So it's up to us. It's up to us to continue his legacy by doing exactly the same thing. We have to introduce Krishna consciousness to others, and not so much in the sense of agyata sukriti, right? That they don't know what they're getting. More like, yeah, let's see, let's separate the wheat from the chaff, just like in India they do. If you live in a village, you've been to Vrindavan, you can see how they throw the wheat, and the chaff just flies in the wind, and the wheat stays, and the rice, and so on. So if you don't, the favorable winds are there, and we have all the tools. We just have to do it and see what remains. What remains? We have to boil the milk. So it is very wonderful to get into the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, to recite every verse. Because these are not ordinary. Krishna himself spoke many of them. These are the words of God, not like the words of God, but the words of God. He spoke them the way you read them. So there is a great deal of purification. But what do you do? What do you do with what you got? This is a rare gift. And this is the difference between Krishna consciousness and other things. That the more you share Krishna consciousness, the more it sticks on you. And the more selfish you become. He said, well, I memorized the first 6 chapters of the Gita. Well, congratulations. And what are you going to do with that? Who are you going to tell? Is this something to augment your pride? Like, look at me, I have such a memory and I can pronounce the Sanskrit correctly. No, this is a gift that needs to be shared over and over. This is a gift that needs to be regifted. Usually you regift stuff that is no good. Somebody gave you something as a gift for Christmas and you had no interest in it. So you can't wait to give it to someone else. But when you're talking about Krishna consciousness, no, this is a gift that you really wanted. And now if you want to keep it, you have to give it to others. And the more people you give it to, the more you get. The larger the portion for you. Like if you make a pizza and you cut it in 10 portions and you give 9 portions away, there's only 1 portion left. Well, the Bhagavad Gita is a pizza that never stops reproducing itself. The more you give, the more portions show up in your own plate. So I would like to open the floor. I don't want to be the, I have no idea. I have never, except for Pandit Srivas Prabhu, I don't know any of you, and I never spoken to any of you. I never heard any of you speak. So let's share some ideas. And if I can help you, if you have any realizations, if you have any topics you want to discuss, if you have any questions, if you have any criticism, if you found something I said doesn't quite meet the standard of Vaishnava behavior, please bring it in. This is a good time. So can we do that, Prabhu?
Yeah. So Prabhu, I'll actually kick it off with a question while others are noodling on this. So at least in my situation, Prabhu, I found that I sometimes feel embarrassed to go to people's places and, tell them, hey, take this, or maybe sometimes embarrassment is not the right word. I might feel some inhibition in,
Uh-huh.
being in an uncomfortable position to go and tell somebody about the Bhagavad Gita and so on. So how do we overcome these? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, it's always depending on the audience. It's only depending on the time and circumstance. You may not, you have to prepare the environment. Like for example, someone is dying. You cannot go to the deathbed of this person and said, "Great news, you're not the body." That's not a good opening scene. That I don't think you're gonna get a standing ovation for your discovery. I think a person is gonna be very upset, and everybody, the family, everybody. What did I do? I just revealed the most esoteric truth. But you should have prepared that terrain before you planted the seed. I think you just threw it in a bunch of sand, and nothing is going to grow out of it. If anything, it will be disdain and contempt for your words. So I would say there should be no embarrassment. There may be inhibition, but I'm sorry. I'm getting over a very serious illness, so I'm still coughing quite a bit. I think the first thing that we should try to see is how much can this person take from me, or am I the right person to deliver the message? When I was a new devotee, well, I'm still a new devotee. When I was trying to be a devotee and I was new, I went home to my parents. They have passed on since. And I tried to preach Krishna consciousness, basic Krishna consciousness to them. And I thought they will be reasonable. They were smart people. They will understand different concepts, the modes of nature, and that we are eternal, and all these things. And it went way above their heads. It was like they could not understand a word of. All of a sudden, I came home, and I was speaking Gujarati to them. They couldn't understand the first word of it. So I was puzzled, because I have had, even though I was a brand new bhakta, I've had some measure of success with other people, not as open-minded, not as cultured, not as those who actually saw me with some love in their eyes and they would pay attention. I had success with people on the street who actually made devotees by talking about Krishna consciousness. And there I am at home, unable to speak the same language that my parents spoke. So my idea was, Krishna gave me this idea. I said, okay, I'm gonna bring some devotees here to meet with my parents and let them talk to them. Because no matter if I am 65 now, and I was maybe 25, 30 when I talked to them then. But to them, I was still 6, 7 year old. You never grow up to your parents. You're always a kid. So to them, it was broken language. They couldn't hear. As they have a saying in Spanish, nadie es profeta en su tierra. No one is a prophet at home. Or in Portuguese, they say, santo de casa não faz milagres, which means Home saints doesn't do miracles. So they couldn't understand me. But when my devotee friends, came and talked to them, it was like a radar opened up. They were listening with so much care and saying, "Wow, that's amazing. That's fascinating. That's incredible." And they would look at me and say, "How come you never told us?" And I smirked a little, but I couldn't show my pleasure by saying, I don't know. I never thought of it. I had spoken about much higher philosophical concepts that my friends never did, and they couldn't hear from me. So sometimes you try to convince someone about Krishna consciousness, but you're not the perfect via medium. You are the via medium to someone else. You have to find your people. You have to find your tribe, people who will listen to you. And it's difficult because you don't know who is who. I had an experience that I was giving a Sunday lecture in Berlin, Germany. And after the class, I gave it in English. It was translated into German. And after the class, an old lady came and whispered in my ear in Spanish. She said, "You made me a devotee." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't think I ever met you." She said, "Oh yeah, you did. You sold me a book 35 years ago. I've been initiated for 34 years. How did I know? I couldn't." And during the same trip, we landed in Boston. There was the Prabhupada's Jaladuta festival, and lady approached me dressed in a sari and said, "What's your name?" I said, "Sarvatma." "Yeah, that was you. I remember your voice. You sold me a book at the Boston airport 25 years ago." Wow, you sure? Yeah, it had your name on it. I didn't forget your voice. And so these people weren't in my tally. I had no idea. I had no clue. And other people that I thought, oh yes, I helped them, they had no interest, or they lost interest. It depends on the amount of sukriti, it depends on the amount of effort, it depends on the chemistry between the two. But you can always try. There is a litmus test though. If you see the person rolling their eyes, you're probably annoying them, and you're not doing them any favors. So try to say less. Because it's difficult, because once they open up, you just want to pour the whole thing, everything you learn in the last few decades, you just want to give it to others. Yes, you have to study this book, and you have to memorize the Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, and you have to meet my guru, and you have to go to Vrindavan, and you have to take Charanamrita, and you have to take Chirachora Gopinath's sweet rice, and it's a little too much. It's a little too much. Start with little. Start with what people can digest. Because if someone is recovering from a digestive malaise, you can't give them lasagna the first day. That's not the way to break into health. So give them whatever little they can take, and they will get. If they get a taste, they will want more. And you should be there. You should be always. You should offer, because we have no other business. We have no other business to cultivate Krishna consciousness and to give it to others. That's our family business, and that's what we're gonna do. Whether we go back to the spiritual world or come back, the same business is there. Is to share Krishna consciousness with others. So don't feel intimidated. You have a tremendous gift, and you have to. It's like the greatest news. you have the greatest news. Nobody has the news that you have. This is how Krishna has blessed you. So now you have to give them to others, and give them as little or as much as they can take. And don't feel embarrassed about it. And don't feel intimidated. What I've been accused of having excessive confidence, and other people have low self-esteem. So we both have to learn not to be too confident, because then you think you're the doer, and not to have low self-esteem because you think you have nothing to do with the process. So it's a combination of both. You have to participate in the game. Even, let's say, if it's a participatory game, like, you're playing charades or something like that, it's not like because you're a better actor, you actually do the whole thing. You become the central figure. Everybody takes a turn, whether they're good or bad. And you never know, because people will have attraction to one delivery more than towards another one. You may think you're the greatest preacher the world has ever seen, but you have no audience because your pride has blinded you and you're alone. You should be preaching to yourself. So this is why you shouldn't, whatever you have, whatever amount of confidence, embarrassment, knowledge, ignorance, just put it in a basket and take it out. And whatever comes out, let Krishna decide, because he's the one who will give you the result. The result is not up to us.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'll wait for questions from others. Any other questions, comments from anyone?
Very, very nice discourse, Prabhu. I'm glad I could hear you. Thank you very much.
I can't see you. Let me put the gallery here, gallery view. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I just have appreciation for you. That's all.
Thank you, Giridhar. Have you thought of anything else besides something that may compromise my spiritual life?
No.
Like pride?
No.
Well, it's my pleasure speaking with all of you. This is the first engagement I've done in a while because of COVID. So I'm glad to be back in the race. And if you don't find it too disparaging or disgusting, maybe we can do it again some other time.
Yeah, I think there were a couple more questions. Shamapriya, you unmuted. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful class. So, Prabhuji, sometimes I think like I'm chanting, I'm doing all the 4 principles and following. That's what I think. But I know that on the other side, there's some kind of how we have to go and preach about Prabhupada's books and everything. So I'm not following those things, but sometimes I'm preaching, like, you should do this. I tell my kids, I tell my husband, like, you should do this. Prabhupada is saying to do this, but sometimes I think I'm not doing that, but I'm telling them. So should I do that?
Well, Shampriya, you're actually preaching to yourself, which is a good thing. What's the sweetest sound? The sweetest sound, besides Krishna's 5th note on the flute, is the sound of one's own voice. So when you hear the message delivered by your own voice, you actually hear it. And you may be more inclined to practice it, even though your intention is, okay, let me tell these people how they should do it, because I know better. What do they say? Do what I say, don't do what I do. But eventually it will it will grow on you. Like, actually, maybe I should do it too. There was a story. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it will illustrate the point. A lady went to see Mohandas Gandhi because his kid was just very addicted to sweets and sugar and stuff. And
Yeah.
what's that?
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
yeah, I muted them.
Okay, so this lady went to see Mohandas Gandhi and said, "Can you please tell my child to stop eating sweets?" And Gandhi said, "Not today, but I will. Just come back in a week." She was puzzled, but didn't question his judgment. So came back a week later, and he remembered them. And Gandhi told the child, you should not eat sweets. You should not eat candy. This is ruining your digestion and is taking the place of real food, which is the way you're going to grow healthy. So the child listened to him, and the woman said, "I'm sorry, but why is that I had to wait a whole week to hear that?" And Gandhi said, "Because I had to give up sweets myself first." That's how things work for us too. We may say, "Well, I won't be able to tell anybody anything until I do it myself." But while you are actually telling others to do the right thing, you're actually telling yourself, you're trying to convince yourself, yes, there is a better way. And if somebody else tells me, then I may have a false ego flare up and may not be able to tolerate someone else telling me, because I will find fault with them. But if I am the one telling myself, I better follow, I better listen. So if you're giving good advice, make sure you're listening to it, because it's meant for you. Like they say, if you accuse someone, use one finger, but 3 fingers are pointed at you. So you should take advantage that even if nobody else cares to tell you how to do things right, you are doing it yourself. And they say that the things that bother us about other people is that we see our own defects reflected on them. So don't be shy. Don't be shy. And if you can, follow what you're trying to do. You see, these are the 4 principles, the rounds, the association of devotees, offering your food, all this stuff is to keep you from getting off the road. The road is very high, and there's a mountain on one side and a precipice on the other side. And these are the guardrails that protect you from your car hitting the mountain or getting off on the precipice. So don't discard them. Just keep them always with you, because they will protect you on your road. But it's not enough. You have to drive, and you have to know where you're going. So you're making up as you go, but you know where you're going. You have a one-pointed vision that I want to be Krishna conscious, and whatever it takes, I will do that. So don't get confused thinking that the rules and the regulations are the goal of Krishna consciousness. These are your protection measures. Krishna consciousness means your heart becomes soft like cotton, and it melts like cheese, and you develop love for Krishna. So until your heart becomes soft and melts, then we have a lot of work to do. So it doesn't matter, you've been chanting 16 rounds or 64 rounds or 192 rounds or following 4 principles or 4,000 principles. This is just to keep you on the road to sanity. You have to always look and see, how soft is my heart getting?
So, Prabhu, sometimes we feel that like we have the love for Krishna.
Yeah, sometimes you feel it, and sometimes you don't feel it. You have children, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. 3.
Okay, so sometimes you feel very affectionate to your children, and sometimes you don't. What do? The times that you don't feel so affectionate, you put them up for adoption? Do you fill up some form? No, you just tolerate and keep going. Krishna is tolerating us when we are. Imagine, this is difficult for us. How difficult must be for Krishna? It has to tolerate all of us. This is a terrible job. You don't want to be Krishna, I'll tell you that. This is a terrible job. Krishna has to tolerate us through ups and downs, and mostly through downs, I would say. And sometimes you feel this overwhelming love for Krishna, and sometimes you can't feel anything. But you just continue, because you know it's good for you, it's good for others, and Krishna wants it. This is what Krishna wants from you. Krishna doesn't need anything from you except for your love. He has everything else. He has the love of the gopis. Why would he want the love of insignificant little jivas like us? Because we are part of it. We are his family. Just like sometimes you read a book like Prema Vilas or Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavatam, where entire dynasties are discussed. And there's like hundreds and hundreds of names. And you think, what's the use of this? What's the use of this? Why do I have to even read about these people? Because they're your family. If you discover all of a sudden that there is a branch of your family that you didn't know, uncle this and auntie that and cousin this and cousin that and so on, you never heard of them before, then you pay attention. Oh, wow. How are they? Dude? And do we have things in common? Is it possible to meet, etc., etc.? So Krishna does, Krishna has family everywhere, and he's taking care of us at whatever speed we are going. Krishna is reciprocating. And sometimes we go fast, sometimes we go slow, sometimes we don't go anywhere. So make sure you're moving. Make sure you're not stagnant, that you think, oh, I can't make progress in Krishna consciousness. I made all the progress I can. I'm done. No, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. Your Krishna consciousness is moving. You may not be able to see it, just like when your children at home, some friend comes after 6 months and sees your kids and say, whoa, they're so grown up. And you just look at the kids and say, no, they haven't. No, they have. You've been in the house with them for the last 6 months, so you can't tell. But they have grown up quite a bit. So you may not see that you're making advancement in Krishna consciousness. But Krishna does. He can see every little emotion, every little attempt for you to love him. And he's fanning all of that. You're making progress, even if you think you're not. So you can take it as a sign of humility, saying, well, I could do better. Yes, everybody could do better. But if you could do better, why didn't you? Why don't you? Because that's all you can do at the moment. And there will be a time where your skills will be tested. Like right now, you may be cruising, and maybe your skills will be needed later on. Like there is someone who is a doctor, and there's nothing going on. There's no pandemic. There's no outbreaks. There's very little disease. Everybody's healthy and happy and so on. But doesn't mean you stop being a doctor. There will be an emergency, and you will be called to action. So don't think that your Krishna consciousness won't take you to the next level. You just have to be steady. Just be steady. Just keep chanting. Try to hear. Try to put your heart into what you do. This is important. This will propel you to the next level. Just don't lose hope.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very wonderful explanation. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Are there any other last questions, comments for Prabhu?
Yes, yeah, I have a question. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you for your lecture. My name is Lalita Prasad Das. I'm a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And we have a University Bhakti Yoga Club here in Cincinnati. And recently we have had a gentleman who comes by, young man, and he's pretty much a woman hater. And he's very intelligent. And he's actually read some of our literature, and he quotes, last week, Thursday, he quoted a verse basically stating that it's okay to beat women. And he claims that, this is our philosophy, that that's what he's come across. He's disruptive, in other words, and the point is he's disruptive. So the gathering place is not my house. It's another devotee's house. And of course, last time I actually had to ask him to leave the premises because he was so intrusive and disrespectful. And it's really a tough situation with this young man. I just really don't know what to do with him, and he usually seeks me out for some reason. But, and I know you've been around a lot of situations where you come across disruptive people, but, the environment is, we have a lot of young students, and it's just really a tough situation. I really don't know what to do at this point, and I thought I'd bring it up and throw it, see what what kind of feedback you can give us, and what to do with this young man. Anyway, that's the question. What to do with disruptive people?
Thank you, Prabhu. Well, there's different kinds of disruptive people. Some people are not fully adjustable. Some people you can actually convince philosophically. You could say, well, this statement about being misogynistic and beating women and dogs and murdangas and all those controversial topics are okay, and they are the main fundaments of our philosophy, but they aren't. They aren't. There's Prabhupada actually said, "Don't ask me to give medical advice. I'm not a doctor." So when Prabhupada presents certain topics that appear to be controversial, and they are, these are details. They're not the main principles of a philosophy. So we have to take them as such. Like but on the other hand, someone like this young man should be respectful. What's the verse from the Gita? Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshina. Now the condition for gyaninas tattvadarshina, the one who has seen the truth can reveal it, is that one has to approach that person in a very submissive way, not in a challenging way. So if he doesn't have the wherewithal or the qualification to be able to understand that this is not some university class where you can just stand up and yell at the professor and say, "I disagree with your vision. You're just an old narcissist, socialist who hasn't grown up." You know, he can't approach the guru with the same rhetoric. So this person has to be first educated in spiritual culture. If you want to learn about spiritual life, you have to approach in a very submissive way and with good questions, which is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said of Srila Prabhupada. He likes to hear. He asks good questions. And Prabhupada wasn't even questioning Bhaktisiddhanta. He was fond of saying the only question he asked him is, "How can I serve you?"
Mm-hmm.
So the beginning of devotional service was service. This person needs to be engaged. So I think it's up because he has taken a liking or disliking or shelter of you. Seems like it is somehow your duty to engage him. So you have to find something that he can do that will give him a taste of devotional service. And there's yes, I've come across so many people, and I've acted differently. There was a lady that used to come to our sanghas with a very large Tupperware container. So her intentions were very clear. She just wanted to eat a lot and to take a lot home. So what did we do? We let her be for a year and then took her off the mailing list. So she never again found out when we were having meetings because she wasn't there to learn. However, there are other people. We had another lady who I call her philosophically waterproof. After almost 2 decades, she could not understand the main things about Krishna consciousness. So you deal with her differently. But if someone is actually offensive, if someone is inquisitive, I mean, I'll be thrilled if someone has good points, even if they're controversial. I'm not afraid of confronting them. But if it's asking them in a very rude way, in a very demeaning way, trying to prove that our philosophy is based on discrimination and bigotry and racism, then I think we'll have to find. I will recommend that person first, if you can engage him in some service that he would like to do and will purify him from within, that would be a good thing to do. However, if you don't want to go through the trouble, I will tell him to find some other group that is more akin to to his philosophy. There was once a devotee friend of mine. We were both distributing books up in the Boston area, and he was taking care of a new bhakta, and the new bhakta was put under the care of this other friend of mine, and he was very puffed up. The bhakta was very defiant and very offensive, and he will argue interminably with this nice friend of mine, saying, "You don't know anything, you think you know a lot, you just want to show that you're the boss, you have no idea what the philosophy is, you have no idea of what my nature is, you don't know what I know," etc. He was really, really troubled. And he didn't know how to deal with him. It wasn't my project, so I didn't intervene. But it happened, he happened to hit on a nerve on one particular evening, because the temple was so full that we didn't even have privacy. We were staying in the lounge area, so we didn't have any privacy whatsoever. We would distribute books all day, come back, take a little prasadam, couldn't even read because everybody was there and they were taking things out of the room, and there was noise and there were people. It was an uncomfortable situation. So one evening, we come back from book distribution, and I sit down with a plate of prasadam, and sure enough, the door opens and my friend comes in first, and the bhakta chiding him right behind. "You don't know anything, you think you know everything," etc., etc. And I was just saying the Sarira prayers. I just wanted a break. And here we are confronting more drama. So after a few moments of that, I just raised my hand and I said, excuse me. My friend is very nice and he's tolerating you simply because his authority told him to. But I don't have to do that. I didn't receive any kind of instruction as such. And I think you're making a severe mistake. He's trying to take care of you, cultivate you, teach you Krishna consciousness, and you're refusing to learn anything because you're too puffed up, because you're way too proud, and because that attitude will impede you from ever learn anything useful in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, my advice to you is that you pack your stuff and you go back to your mother, because you don't belong in a movement like this. You belong with your mother because you're a child and you don't understand anything. That shut him up. And my friend, I could see he was just starting to get a migraine, because I could see what he was thinking. Oh my God, when such and such Maharaj finds out that I blew his bhakta, I'm done. My spiritual life is over. And the other boys still stood there. So I said, perhaps you haven't heard me clearly. I said, go back to your mother. We don't need you. This is a serious movement for serious practitioners, and you're just immature and infantile. So go take your stuff somewhere else where you can actually, will take you 1,000 years to learn what you can learn here in a day. Goodbye. Leave now. So the boy left the room, and my friend was just scratching his head. And I said, you know what? I'm still hungry, which means that wasn't done out of anger. That was done out of duty. So let's just take some prasadam, okay? Don't worry about it. It's okay. So the next day, the boy came back and he apologized to both of us. He said, I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right. I did not understand what you were telling me. I've been neglectful and I've been abusive, and I apologize, and please forgive me, and I won't do it again. So that worked then. I don't know it will work in your case with this other boy.
Yeah.
But you can take a pot shot once in a while and see how it works, because if you see, you can tolerate to a certain degree, but you're actually sometimes tolerating becomes enabling, just like in a mother giving money to this drug addict son because she feels pity for him.
Right.
She's enabling him. So maybe by not telling him, not confront him with the real point of the situation, which is not which one is the real philosophy of Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't distinguish it. He couldn't distinguish which one is the real philosophy, because he's actually looking. It's like a fly. It's looking for stool. It's not like a bee looking for nectar. So you should make him see that, and maybe he will wake up, and maybe he won't. And if he doesn't, there is no loss. Tell him to go join the Jehovah's Witness or someone else.
Okay. Thank you so much. Wonderful. And I miss your Denver classes. What happened? What happened to Denver? Why there's no more transmission? Because I listen to the Denver class every day, and there's nothing going on there.
Actually, there is. They started doing them on Zoom again. And as far as myself, my wife and I got COVID, very serious
Oh.
bout. So I haven't been to the temple in nearly 3 weeks, even though I live 3 blocks away. But I will. We are getting better, and we're gonna start again, Krishna willing. And thank you. I'm glad.
Thank you. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Glad you're listening.
And we had, I think, one question from Amit Prabhu, Anuja Mataji. And Prabhu, I just wanted to be mindful of your time and availability. Is it still okay to ask a question or two? Or did you want us to conclude?
I have no other business. This is ecstasy. If you want to stay up all night talking Krishna Katha, we'll do that.
Okay. All right. So Amit Prabhu, all yours.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandvat Pranam. Thank you
Krishna.
so much for such a wonderful practical advice on thinking. Just one question. If you could spend just a little bit of time and telling us your initial introduction to Krishna consciousness, that without even reading those books when you were up for book distribution and doing service, how was it like, and what made you get into it?
I think it will be a disservice if I abbreviate or summarize the story of what got me started, because it's a very convoluted and very interesting story. So I will, if Pandit Srivas Prabhu allows me to again participate in an event like this, then I will tell the story, and it's with full pomp, with all the lights and whistles.
Yes,
You're actually scheduled for the concluding session of our event, so which is
okay.
the Christmas Eve, essentially 24th.
Okay, so on the 24th, if I'm invited, I'll be happy to disclose with full detail, what happened, how come I made it into Krishna consciousness, which is a miracle in itself.
Yes, Prabhu, that'll be great. Thank you so much. And thank you again for your wonderful, such a lovely class. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Amit. My pleasure.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, I have comment. Hare Krishna Atma Tattva, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for your amazing lectures. And you gave why the Bhagavad Gita way is very important. So, and I also liked your journey, whatever like you have told, and we will be waiting for on 24th. You'll give us more glimpse about it. But sometimes we don't appreciate the effort of all the senior Vaishnavas, those who did a lot for us and for the moment. So my question is that how we can have more gratitude for them, those who did a lot in Prabhupada's movement.
You tell them.
No, I did not get it, but
You tell them. When you see someone, actually,
okay.
I was having lunch with Giriraj Swami Maharaj one day, and I was praying for a while. I said I would love to meet the pioneers. I would like to meet. I've been around for a while, so I met a lot of devotees, a lot of senior devotees, but I hadn't met kind of some of the early ones. And somehow or other, Krishna, just by me having that desire, all of a sudden Shama Sundar, the original, not the original, Tribanga, the second one, the second Shama Sundar showed up for lunch, and we were able to make friends. And I met Yamuna on a retreat not far from home, and met Malati because she was a friend of my wife, and I met Tejas, and I met a lot of the original. I was praying. I was actually praying. That's because they're gonna be taken from us. They're in their 70s and some in their 80s. So when am I gonna have a chance? So and I did not hesitate to tell them, how important it was for us. Maybe I didn't say enough. Maybe I should try to contact them again, those who are still with us, and tell them how much I appreciate what they have done. They're actually, it's like the Bhagavatam describes that we should be grateful to the demigods. We should be grateful to our ancestors. We should be grateful to those who dug wells and planted trees. And what to speak of those who paved the path of Krishna consciousness for us. So they made it easy. See, in the beginning, it was so difficult. Prabhupada told an 18-year-old Shivananda, said, okay, go to Germany and open a branch of Krishna consciousness. So that's how would you like to get an instruction like that when you're 18? You've been in the movement for maybe a year. And you go to a foreign country and open a branch of Krishna consciousness by yourself. You don't even know anybody. You don't know the language. Somehow or other, these people are extraordinary figures, and they're historical figures. We should be very, very grateful to them, and we should do that. If you meet any of them, said, you don't know me, I'm insignificant, I'm of no relevance to anybody or anything, but I just wanted you to know that what you have done is incredible, and may Krishna bless you. May Krishna bless you. May I become a servant of your servant. Because without you, it wouldn't have been possible. So yes, we actually have to, you can't assume that they know this. You have to actually remind them. You have to let them know. I'm very appreciative for your service, Prabhu.
Thank
to
you
everybody.
very much.
Yeah, to everybody, not just those who are senior to you. Even to those who are junior, you can encourage them by telling them that. Yes, this what you're doing is very important, And I appreciate that you take your time to practice Krishna consciousness. This for future generations. All right.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
All right. Hare Krishna devotees, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, so then we can, please, if possible, turn on our videos, unmute ourselves, and thank His Grace Sarvatma Prabhu by chanting Hari Bol 3 times.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol,
Thank you so much for your association and guidance. Really appreciate that, and we look forward to the next session. And if it's okay with everybody, I'll just take 1 minute